Welcome back to Toni Farmer's Garden, the podcast. This episode is for anyone who's recently thought, my favorite snack just doesn't taste as good as it used to. Don Leonard has been working with food brands for 30 years. He's worked with just about every food brand you can think of: Kraft, PepsiCo, Taco Bell, Conagra, Power Bar. And he's worked on some of your favorite foods too, developing the recipes for Doritos, Cool Whip, and Manwich. He's the one responsible for Taco Bell's fat-free sour cream. So we're going to get to the bottom of why a lot of our foods just don't taste as good as they used to. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the podcast, Don. I'm really excited to have you here. I would like to pull back the curtain a little bit on consumer foods marketing. Walk me through front of package. What are some constraints? Like, what are the handcuffs that the FDA puts on you? And then what are ways that food companies try and work front of package to their advantage?
Okay, so if you do a vignette, which is a picture of a food product, I've been on food styling shoots. I've actually had to go there to do the styling. There's some things you want to do to kind of lift the product, give it, you want to make it appetizing. And so, for example, my friend, he does pizza. And so what he does is he will take a torch and fire the cheese to get it to the nice kind of, it just came out of the oven. If it didn't come out of the oven good, he would replicate it.
Spray it with oil so it glistens.
But these are the things. So like you said, the vignette is important. You have to put naturally flavors. You have to say with other natural flavors. For example, I want to use blueberries in my product. Blueberries are very expensive. Sometimes blueberry has some apple juice in it because it's a cheaper juice. But you can say, so I have to do blueberry with other natural flavors. My marketing team does not like that because, to me, they see the consumer is going to say, what does that mean? And so there's all these things that you go.
And there's a ratio, I'm assuming. Like, there's a very specific ratio, I'm assuming, of apple juice you can add before the FDA is like, no, can't go that far.
There's things called standard of identity, okay? Ice cream has a standard of identity. You have to have so much milk fat.
Which is why we're now seeing...
They call it dessert.
They call it frozen dessert now if it does not meet the dairy. So look at your ice cream. This is such a perfect example, guys. Look at your ice cream labels when you go to the store. If this matters to you, it's got to say ice cream on it. If it doesn't, and a lot of them don't, that's why.
And I'm going to call out one brand. I'm going to not say them because I don't want to allegedly think, because I worked at Kraft and they had just purchased that brand and they had a purity pledge. You bought that product because this was in the early 90s, but they laid into a purity project. We have this, it is, we have all this greatness. There was no organic kind of thing at the time. It was just purity. Purity was a word. They stood by that, had a little leaf on there. That was their kind of statement.
I remember.
Yeah. And that was ice cream. That's that thing. Now, apparently somebody did a thing that brand calls itself frozen dessert. That brand had changed hands from Kraft that sells it to so-and-so, that sells it to so-and-so, that sells it to so-and-so. The legacy's lost to the consumer. They don't know that. Their parents' ice cream that they ate as a kid because they bought it for the kid. It was great. I love that product.
I grew up on that brand and we probably ate it. There were periods of time where we ate it a little bit every night. And it does not taste like that.
They had cultured product. They had
doesn't
yogurt.
Taste the same at all any longer. Not at all.
And that's one of the things I will talk to this because as a consumer, I grew up with all those brands I worked for. I worked for Kraft General Foods, my first food company. Kraft had just bought General Foods. Kraft is notorious about acquisitions. It was Kraft Nabisco, Kraft Heinz. So Kraft really kind of does, they just buy all these things, which is fine. And so I grew up with General Foods products. You could open up your cupboard. You probably remember Jell-O, okay? Tang, okay. Log Cabin Syrup, okay. Cool Whip, that was my brand I worked on. Okay, these were all General Foods. Kool-Aid, General Foods. General Foods made a business on selling ingredients. So Kool-Aid is basically color and flavor. You add your own sugar, okay? Tang is color, citric acid to give you the tart, and some sweetener. At the time, it was probably sugar, at the time before corn syrup.
I drank that as a kid too.
Yep. And Cool Whip, that was the brand first thing I worked on was it's oil because it's a non-dairy whip topping. You cannot call it creamer.
Yeah, guys, this is occurring to my listeners for the first time. There's no dairy in Cool Whip. It's made from oil. Well, and now you're making me think of the genius, and you probably know all about this, of now you're encouraged by all these magazines and articles to buy Cool Whip and Jell-O, and there was all these recipes for those two ingredients.
You're so funny. Yes, funny. When I started there, They had one group there that I would go to because I was on Cool Whip. It was recipe development. And I would go in there, I would bring the new Cool Whip in. If I changed the recipe to do something, but I couldn't affect the performance because it was
Mhm.
really recipe driven. It was a whipped topping, but a lot of people would fold it into my grandmother. I think she thought she developed that dessert with the cherries or something. I don't know. Every church woman would bring it to
Yeah,
think after church. I love that stuff. But
absolutely.
it was Cool Whip, and they wanted to make sure it didn't fall, it didn't collapse,
Uh-huh.
that you still get the dollop. So they would do these. They were home ec people. You could make a living studying home economics because you're doing hard measures and stuff like this. You didn't have to go to
Hmm.
culinary school to do this. I used to go and hang out, like I would bring this and just like chit chat with them, but they were doing these things. There was a 1-800 line because Jello had pectins, right?
Hmm.
Pectin business were all the people in the Midwest that were cooks. And so they're calling either my recipe's not working. You had somebody helping them through the recipe. It's almost like when turkey time comes around Thanksgiving, there's an
Yes,
800
the
number
hotline.
how to do your maybe my turkey's
Yeah,
too dry. Fix it right now. You can just baste it a little longer, add a little bit moisture in the
yeah.
pan. But they don't have that anymore
Well,
because that was
marketing
one of
is
the things.
genius, though. Like, I'm thinking now I'm opening Women's Day magazine or I'm opening whatever as a woman, right, during these years. And there's a recipe in there for, make your next picnic be the star with this Jello salad that also requires Cool Whip. Now you've sold two products just for one recipe. And I'm very pleased with the product when I show up. And then I want more. That's brilliant marketing.
It's also convenience. You're going. It also the brand you can trust. General. Oh, I trust. This is a
Yeah.
family of log cabin syrup because I was called out on this because I was actually putting because it was high fructose corn. It was quarts
Yeah.
cheaper in the room that I was batching the thing is. And my fellow food scientist, she was food. I'm not a food scientist. She said, we used to do this back in Cranberry, New Jersey. We put a little bit of this with a little bit of maple syrup. There you go. That's log cabin syrup. Really? That's it? Just corn syrup, a little bit of maple flavoring. That's log cabin syrup.
All right, I want to keep a running list here, so because I think this is going to amuse people. So, Cool is actually made from oil. Most syrup is just corn syrup, unless you buy the real thing. We're just going to keep a running tally of
Maybe a
stuff.
little maple just so that you can give
Yeah.
some credibility to it. But Aunt Jemima, Cabin, those were your breakfast.
Hmm.
And then Mrs. Butterworth's had it. It was different because it had butter flavor. If you're a brand that has a commodity kind of condiment,
Hmm.
how are you going to differentiate yourself? You could be before there was light and stuff. Add more butter, just change your flavor profile. But nobody's going to deviate from the very, very simple formula of a corn syrup, a cheap syrup, a flavor, or a little bit of maple to call yourself syrup because it's not maple syrup, it is log cabin syrup. And we don't know that. Me growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, did not know that until I went to Boston, where I had friends that were from Vermont, and I had really good maple syrup. And I went to Canada. But for me, I didn't know. I mean, that was good enough for me.
All right, well, we're going to jump all over the place right now, but you said something that I just wanted to touch back on. So, corn syrup is cheap, and I want to go back to what you said before. It's post World War II. Everyone's looking for convenience foods. Foods are changing drastically, and you talked about Kellogg's and other cereal companies pushing the grains for breakfast. This is a direct result of our discovery of synthetic fertilizer. We blew up our ability to grow corn and wheat and soy and sugar, and they got cheap. So then you had guys like Don on the front lines years later. It drives product, right? You're like, what are the ingredients we can get for super cheap? Because margin is everything, right? And then you back engineer products that hit the shelf using cheap stuff that's cheap, right? So can you think of anything off the top of your head where you guys started to engineer a product like, listen, you know, corn is super, super cheap for the next 2 years. What else can we do with corn?
Me, not so much because when I came on, I never actually developed something from. I actually had the what's it called the luxury or whatever of working on established products,
Established brands. Hmm.
brands that were marquee brands that everybody knew that had the what's it called when you have market share was amazing. Cool had like what's our competitor because nobody.
Yeah.
It lasts 2 weeks in the refrigerator because you get it frozen, but in 2 weeks, other people that tried it would collapse. It would get really ugly, and so that was our sustainable competitive advantage. I remember that word, and I used it for the rest of my career, having a sustainable competitive advantage. And our was this thing is going to last much longer than nature because it's 2 weeks. Like it should go bad.
Oh my God, that might be the quote for the t-shirt. This thing is going to last a lot longer than nature.
Yeah, but it is. That should go bad, right? No.
It should. Yeah, I think so.
I was a child growing up in the 70s where it was a mixed of thing. I was a latchkey kid. I
Yep.
came home to maybe a babysitter that I was too old. I'm not a baby anymore. So I looked after myself. The microwave came. It was safe to have me make a food. I didn't have to put anything on the stove. So they felt good about that. So all these things were quick, inconvenience things. Okay. You want things to last longer. There's different ways you do that. I'm not going to get into science. You want to control water activity. That's one thing. Or you put preservatives there. The best preservation is refrigeration and freezing,
Yeah.
right?
So you were working on flavor, longevity, and price, right? Price point of those three, what did you focus on the most? Were you the flavor guy? Were you the
I
Get
did
reducing.
everything.
cost? You did all of that. All right, so talk about that. Give us an example of a product that you worked on and talk us through it.
Okay, let's go to that. I'm going to jump to ConAgra. Okay.
Okay.
ConAgra had purchased Hunt Wesson. We grew up with Hunt Weston, Wesson Oil, Wessonality, and Hunt's
Yeah.
tomato brands. I worked on Manwich, which would, again, that was the marquee product. I kind of lucked out on working like
Oh my gosh, Manwich. I forgot about that. Okay.
Manwich is a meal. Manwich does. People thought I even thought maybe it came with meat. It's not. It's just purely a tomato sauce with like cinnamon clove. There is a recipe to the thing, but you can't be
But you
too.
mixed it with ground beef. Am I
You
reading
actually
that
ground the
correctly?
ground beef and you poured it over and you
Okay.
had sloppy Joe and everybody in the commercials were very happy. So I had a cost reduce because that's one of the biggest revenue generators of the company. When you work, especially me, I'm a chemical engineer, not a food scientist. I like I'll go back to like, why did I have the food? Because I question that too. Why do you want me on food? But anyway,
Because it's all chemical these days.
well, I guess I was ahead of my time. But
Yeah.
one of the things is they wanted to take its tomato solids, but the thing their sustainable competitive advantage was the thickness. Okay, it had to have a level of thickness. Thickness comes from the amount of tomato solids, but they wanted to. What can we do to cost reduce it? Well, we can take out tomato sauce, but we got to replace it with something to maintain it. Well, xanthan gum. Okay,
Mm.
Xanthan gum, which we see on the back of so many products, and it's creates a thicker consistency, right?
is very hydrocolloid. If you ever get it on your hands and you get water on it and you can't even wash it because it's just so slippery. They're just different properties. But so my job was because I had to sit there and like, how much xanthan gum, how much can I eliminate from the tomato solids using xanthan gum to give me a viscosity that so the consumer knows no difference. We spent a lot of money going to the consumers. I had make a bunch of cans, give it to the market research firm so that they could do the test and there is no difference. That was a win. I think I saved them a significant amount of revenue to the bottom line.
This is fascinating.
But
Yeah.
again,
Give
I
me.
just one of these things because I'm like, we grew up having it just be tomatoes and some spices, and it was good. We were good with it. Then people
Yeah.
said, I'm going to buy you. I'm a bigger company. I'm going to buy the smaller company. You owe me some money, revenue, because I bought you for a reason. You're not
Yeah.
doing new products. How are you going to give me? I'm going to give you some savings and the
Reduce costs. Absolutely. I want to stay on this vein. I want more stories like this, but I want to point out to our listeners right now. So, and I'm going to use a curse word here, so my mom will be mad at me. But we talk a lot about the enshittification of our food system right now, and it's almost like we have finally hit the point where consumers are fully noticing. Suddenly, everyone's going, nothing tastes good any longer, and it starts with Don's work. We go way back to the very beginning where they were trying to reduce costs. So they started, substituting. Xanthan gum isn't necessarily bad for you, but it's not tomato solids. And then another year later, there's a different brand manager and a different food scientist working on that. And they've got to cut costs again and they substitute something else in. And I think we're finally in the 2020s getting to the point where things have gotten so far from what they were, and we could have a whole different discussion about health. That's not my point. My point is flavor and value for your dollar right now, where it doesn't even taste like what you want it to taste like. And this is all a result of cost reduction. And the average consumer does not realize that.
when I first came on to Cool Whip in 1993, Cool was developed in 1967, the original one. They had what they called the gold standard formula. They did not have a piece of product that they maintained in the refrigerator. No, but they had the formula. They were really good. They said because it was the lion's share, we own this market share. We have such good margin on this that we cannot mess it up. In 1993, that I remember Diane Devine, great leader. She was very adamant. It has to make sure that we maintain our loyalty to this customer that
Yeah.
probably still alive and their children.
Do you feel like that's still true though, to the same degree? Like, I don't feel like it is.
I don't think they want you to have gold standard. I think it's almost like we don't want to tell you because now you know the truth, so we're not even going to talk about it. So we
Mm,
just consider like these branders, their mission is to save money without any loyalty or respect to the product that was actually generated from the beginning that had all this great breakfast cereals changed to I don't eat breakfast cereal, but I'm
I don't
sure
either.
those things have changed. And I'm like, I don't think they've improved. I don't think, they fortify. We'll get to the whole thing of fortification and enriched. That's a different game. Those are words that means a different thing.
I'd love to talk about that though, because I would also bet that the average consumer has no idea why their foods are fortified with so much, why it says it on the front of the package, what they're hoping to accomplish.
You got to add it back in because we're cooking it out. We're
Yeah.
we're we're sloughing off the
Yeah.
shell or the hull that does have some fiber and nutrient. We've got to add it back from other things that maybe are from nature, but they weren't accompanied. They didn't grow together. They didn't grow up
Yeah.
together, bloom together. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of putting, two things that don't make, we'll get along, but we didn't grow up together. So
Yeah, as our food system has changed and gotten less and less nutrient dense because of a lot of processing, it started to affect America's children. We were seeing nutrient deficiencies. And so food companies were adding, this is why you see A&D fortified milk, and this is why you see added vitamin C. And a lot of these are products that have been so processed, they don't have any natural vitamin C left in them. So they add it back in and they throw it on the front of package. And then mom at the grocery store goes, oh, this is good for me. And it has helped a lot of children. But I ask, in my heart and soul, I ask a lot of questions about the delivery system. So give us another example. What else did you work on where someone said, you got to cut costs on this product? And what'd you do?
I think I made a decision. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to work with athletes. So I pivoted my career to go into nutrition. I was an athlete. I wanted to work with athletes. I got to do that. And
And athletes need to really care about what they eat. Like it drastically impacts
and that was
performance.
funny because some of the Power Bar, for example, was created by a coach at Berkeley because he was a track and field coach, and his wife, who was a foods and nutrition major, not a food scientist, and they basically did their garage. So when it shifted to when I said in like 2003, when I said I don't want to do that, I want to do this. I did not. I actually intentionally made the products more. I don't want to use the word healthy, but more nutritionally targeted for a benefit, whether it's activity, sport, daily lifestyle, more fiber in your diet.
Weight loss too, or no?
I did weight loss. Yeah, I did. In my career, I participated in every trend style of what you would call weight loss, weight reduction. 1993 was cool. They wanted fat free. Okay.
Yeah. Everything went fat free.
Yeah, Kraft. So I sat on it. Kraft had the best sensory panels where you would taste everything. Everybody had to do fat free, every department. Cheese, yogurt, my thing. They had Giorgiano pizza. Everybody had to have fat. That was kind of at the top down. You must do fat free is the thing. Everybody must have some platform of fat free. And I'm trying to think of the other products that they had.
If you're as old as Don and I listening to us, you lived through this. You remember when every fat was the enemy. Everything went fat free. And if you're too young if you're younger than us, then you might not remember this, but it was absolutely bizarre. The shelves were covered and culminated in a product that I fell for hard. And I have huge regret called Snackwells. Snackwells was a whole line. Yeah, Nabisco. And they made a whole line of cookies and crackers. They're gone now. They had no fat in them. They tasted terrible and they replaced all the fat with sugar. So we were just walking around eating sugar and carbs.
Fat has you have the emollients, you have the thing that and you there's something about there is beauty in fat,
Yeah.
whether it's vegetable fat, grown or animal fat, that has this kind of there's an essence of what it came from. Fat will hold on to flavor. When you have sugar, you have to flavor the sugar, and that's the thing. As we know, sugar is addictive.
Yeah.
So
Sure
we're
is.
going to replace the natural fat with sugar that's going to give you the instant hit and the instant dopamine of joy that you're just satisfied. And we've tricked you. So that was 1993.
Mhm.
1990. Then I went to Taco Bell And we wanted to be relevant too, because what are you gonna do? Make another taco that's something flavored? And they said we're gonna have a better. We said we're gonna have a better for you menu. It was called the Better for You menu. It was Project Better BFY, and we had your product that was what you loved, but a light version. We never said fat free. We were going to do some of these things to reduce the calorie content, so that the final product would have a meaningful difference in calories and what the fat. Again, fat was the enemy at the time. So that you were going to we were hoping you were going to be an incremental purchase, not a trade-off. It's because our consumer at the time was guys 18 to 24. They don't really care about it. Are you going to bring the girls in? If you are, they're going to probably gravitate. Now I'm going to make up thing, whatever. I'm going here with him, and what am I going to eat? Oh, there's a light version. Great taco, great. I'll eat it. And so one of the things I developed was the fat-free sour cream. Now that's why you have a chemical engineer on there.
You're to blame for fat-free sour cream.
So I developed the fat. That was my formula, and
I'm sure you sold a hell of a lot of fat-free sour cream in the 90s.
Well, I don't know. It tasted good because I have to make sure that there's no difference. I wanted the same, the sour part of it. It had to have the texture. It had to have the same kind of, because how you apply it at the restaurant level. It's not a dollop in a spoon. You squirt it on the cocktail. I'm telling you some secret you already know. So it had to have the performance at the operational level. That menu lasted all of 2 years before people said, we're not generating the revenue that we thought we would because we're not getting incremental sales. And people would try to would switch off and switch back because you could never deliver on what the consumer really. You're saying this, we're telling you it's going to taste the same, and we did everything to make it taste the same. And I made the the low fat taco meat. My friend would say, "Oh, I love the ground beef at Taco Bell meat. You mean taco meat, a ground beef? You mean taco? Why do you keep saying it? Can't say ground beef."
Oh, Don, what are you saying? What are you saying is the Taco Bell meat?
So ground beef has a standard of identity. There's so much fat and meat has to do it. Taco Bell, in order to keep the product moist on the steam tray, has oats in there just for moisture, and that's fine. It just keeps the things moist, because you're keeping it on steam. You're putting a lid on, taking it off. You want to extend the shelf life, the line life, on a restaurant level, and so they would put oats in there. So I went to Iowa to go where they made the taco meat. So I saw the whole processing, and it was fine. We just got a liter cut of meat. We're good. We did not do anything manipulative. We just did a liter cut. So it's a little bit less with a bite. You don't get the kind of nice bite, right? The fat, right? So that's what you get. So we had to make sure that the consumer, once everything's made with the cheese and the lettuce and the shell, that's you have the beauty of something like that. There's so much noise going on that they may not notice it, but it didn't resonate. At the time, PepsiCo owned Taco Bell, and it was on Pizza Hut. They owned the restaurants, and Frito, which they continuously do. Frito came out with what? Listriva.
Oh, what's Listriva?
Excuse me, Olestra.
Oh, Olestra. Oh my gosh, I forgot about Olestra.
Olestra. Excuse me, guys who make Listriva. Listriva has hair growth. That's another thing. It's Olestra. Olestra was good if you were a salty snack eater because they had a chip. You had your.
It was a fat substitute? I can't even remember what it was.
Yep.
Okay.
Olestra was a fat substitute. It glided like fat. Okay. It had a nice glide.
Yeah.
So much so, without me being, I got to be cognizant of maybe this is not maybe like an unappetizing thought, that because it glided so much, it glided through your body, that fat.
That's what I was remembering. I couldn't remember. Like people were getting diarrhea from it, right?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I have completely forgotten about this until you brought it up.
Bunch of it thinking I'm going to dig into my Fritos or my what's the wavy one, whatever, Ruffles, because or no, actually I did Doritos. So somebody gave permission to have it launched. So the Olestra company, Mr. Olestra, went to Frito-Lay, said, "You're my best customer. I want you to make everything." And I'm sure Pepsi said, "I want every chip there fat-free," just as they did like Kraft. So top down says, "I want all my portfolio to have this thing." And so they did that only
because products that said fat-free were flying off the shelves. Like I just want you to understand as a consumer, they were responding to, we were filling our carts with anything that said fat-free at this point.
Yep. And so that was the thing for a while. Okay. Then let's go to 1990, 2003. 2003. If you're old enough to remember what was going on there. Oh, low carb. Carbs are
Suddenly it went to it's not fat. Fat is fine. And this is one of the reasons I have to say why people don't trust scientists right now. It's very upsetting to me because scientists are doing the research behind the scenes. And then I'm not going to blame journalists here. There's not one person to be blamed, but someone would pull up a single study and write a front page article about it, like eggs are a great example. Oh my God, eggs are full of cholesterol. Who knew? Everyone stop eating eggs. And it would affect the food industry for years and what we bought and ate. And then suddenly someone would say, you know what? That's not true. And now I think people just don't trust us any longer.
We talk about studies. Who sponsors the studies? Universities don't have money like, okay, we want you to do this. Oh, you're funded by something so that you get the monies to do this research. That's a true fact. Okay, I'm an oil company. I want you to do research on oils. I'm a grain company. And if I don't like the results, I'm paying for the science. So they will spend it or something so that it favors. And that is the real thing. I'm not being rabbit.
That's a great behind the scenes take too. Like that is absolutely.
I've worked, I do PubMed studies. I do research review all the time if I'm making a claim. And so I see these things. Okay, I'm good with this because it's double blind studies, peer reviewed. I'm good with this stuff. So you go back when you have the people that were funding research. For example, maybe the University of Minnesota was doing all the research on why you should have more grains in your diet. What's in Minnesota? What's Minneapolis? Oh, Joe Mills. Okay, so they go to campus and said, hello, the head department of food science. I want you to commission this study because it's going to be great for you guys. We'll get you'll be published as a thought leader in this field of agriculture science. You'll get more people to come to your college to get their PhD with you. There you go. Let me take a look at the thing before you set it up. You got to change.
So as your diet changes over the years, like every year our diet changes as Americans, what we want. And you should ask yourself when a new product, a new ingredient takes front and center, it could be the result of what Don is describing. Someone paid a lot of money for research at university level on a grain that they, or not a grain, but an ingredient that they happen to produce. And it ends up working its way into our food system. We joked earlier this year, that cabbage is the star vegetable of 2026. Now, I don't actually happen to think there's a big cabbage lobby, but it was a result of the GLP-1s. Everyone's on a GLP-1 and doctors are saying you've got to increase your fiber because it can mess with your digestive tract. What's a really high fiber vegetable that hasn't had a spotlight moment? Cabbage, and now we're all eating cabbage. So it's often driven from locations that you can't imagine, and they end up on your plate. All right, so Don, we have time for one more story here. Pick a wild story from your career, crazy ingredient, crazy rumor, crazy story that spread, true or not, and tell me the story.
Okay, so when I was at Power Bar, okay, we had good marquee bars. If you were an athlete, you ate this bar that was, you got what you got. There was no variety there. So it was this kind of toffee thing. We had a bar, I think it was a cherry flavored bar, something like strawberry, raspberry. No, it was raspberry. In that bar was an ingredient to make it red because we weren't going to use red dye. That was that was nixed away legislative wise and supply wise. Red dye number 8 or 3 or something. In the 70s, I remember that was on M&M.
I remember that. That was why we got rid of the red M&M back then, right?
Exactly. But we were going to use natural colors, okay? And there was a product called cochineal. It was in there. I had no problem with it. I was never that product. I didn't eat that bar. So I was like, okay. All of a sudden, it came out in the sphere. This is 2003. The internet, the Google thing wasn't as ubiquitous. There was no influencers calling out stuff. Somebody said something to somebody. It got in the news that cochineal is actually from beetles. It is crushed beetles.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, what? I don't think so. And it was. I did the research on it. It was. You crush that insect, and out of that comes the elixir of the blood, I guess.
The elixir.
Red.
Bug elixir.
But you're able to harvest enough of these somewhere and cheap enough to use it in food product. Everybody was using cochineal. They call it cochineal. And there was also another word that they used.
Is this still used in food production?
No.
Okay.
Because as a consumer, they don't like the idea of it. I don't think it's poisonous, but to them, it's like.
Not at all. Insects are a fabulous source of inexpensive protein, but Americans cannot get over it. And so we don't use bug products in most of our food.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too when I was at Think Thin. But yeah, that was one of the things that because the consumer things that people did not know. I think that I don't know if they were like fooled or blindsided, but it makes them question what else is in my food that does not come from something Christian, if I use that word.
Sure. Something that I feel comfortable eating.
And there was another one too that I'm only going to go there on the surface. It was a strawberry flavor that it was almost ridiculous storyline. It's one of these like, what? Did a bunch of like 8th graders say this, and that's why you're saying it? But it was a strawberry-like flavor. Strawberry-like. It gave you the
Sure.
Sensory perception of strawberry. That came from beavers. A beaver, the animal,
Like a gland?
certain gland and certain muscle of the body that I'm like, what? Because it was a Beavis and Butthead. I thought that's kind of what you're saying. It's a true fact that somehow the
Oh my
people
God.
getting away for doing something. I'll do the research and get you but it was something. There's a name for it.
Klein, this is the teaser right here. Okay, so is this still a common ingredient?
It's again one of these things like ooh,
Right.
and it's one of these things. Once the veil has been lifted,
Yeah.
gig is up.
All right, Klein. There's lots of things we could talk about here, but I
Yes.
feel like beaver gland at the end of that discussion stands out.
Is that beaver sweat or is that something else?
So we looked it up here. It's called castoreum. It's a sweet vanilla smelling secretion from the castor sacs of beavers. And there's a Vice article here calling it beaver butt juice.
I feel like I should have a stronger reaction to that, but I just don't. Because I'm so in the headspace of like, we're eating so much.
I know. Well, you
weird
can say
stuff.
that though.
I'm saying it right now.
Are you saying it right now? We do. Now,
Who cares?
I was surprised to hear you say that you would eat crickets.
I've eaten one cricket.
So that's such a, like in our culture, that's such a, I will not eat bugs. Do not make me eat bugs. But they are a really good, cheap source of protein. We just can't get our head around the idea.
Yeah. I mean, crickets, I feel like are definitely becoming more common.
Yeah.
Worms, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because don't people eat, not maggots, but like something along those lines that are kind of squishy and like burst in your mouth?
Well, there's definitely cultures around the world
Right.
that eat all that stuff. We just don't respond well. But it's funny, we do eat weird things. Like here's my perfect example.
Yeah.
When you make a hot dog, you're using all the parts of the pig that ordinarily would get thrown away, including the ears, the anus. Like you're eating pig butthole when you eat a hot dog.
Yeah.
And no one in the industry would argue that away. Like, no, we don't do that. Yes, of course they do. But we eat hot dogs like they're going out of style.
Right.
And then we reject other
Yeah.
foods.
I think there's no coming back from learning that the McDonald's chicken nugget is just
Gross chicken parts. Ground up.
And isn't that, I was just explaining this to someone the other day. Isn't it the difference between being able to call something a chicken tender and a chicken nugget, or like a chicken finger and a chicken tender?
Yeah.
Is that it needs to be a full piece of chicken to call it a chicken tender?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's just ground up byproduct.
Yeah.
My college students all talk about, this is so funny, because they're all, I mean, I consider them adults. They're all over 18. But their favorite food is dino nuggets, which are just chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs. So you would think I had one or two students that like those. Oh, no. It is a thing every time I bring them up. The whole class is like, we love dino nuggets. I'm like, buckle your seatbelt because I'm going to tell you what's in there.
Is that just all chicken scraps?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
No,
Awesome.
it's byproduct. It can be, it is not, I originally thought it was mostly the hens from the laying industry when they're done at around 18 to 24 months and they don't lay as many eggs. They are culled, which means is a nice way of saying killed. And then they do become part of the food system, but it's mostly pet food and low grade, like processed food, like chicken soup and things like that. But I would think that's also where they're getting it for chicken. They're not using the best parts of the chicken for
Well,
that.
this is gonna get a little morbid, but do the health benefits of chicken meat decay as the chicken ages?
No, but the chicken meat gets tougher and people don't like to eat it. So, Klein, how long do you think is from birth to processing for a chicken wrapped in plastic at the grocery store?
A month?
Yeah, it's about a month.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's
Wow, look at
it's
me.
at 67 days. So
All
it's
those
about 2
documentaries,
months.
all those what's it called? Traumatizing documentary.
So, but what's happened is we've bred them to gain weight so fast that we don't have to, you don't have to work very hard. You start feeding them and they get really fat and they have heart issues and they have, they often break bones because they get so fat their legs can't support them. But
And they're so crammed, right?
And they're so crammed. But the idea behind the industry is, well, that's about the point where we're pulling them anyway and killing them to be food. So why do you care? I mean, that's the focus of the whole series I'm doing on Instagram right now is how much cruelty are we willing to tolerate in our food system? And apparently the answer is a lot. We tolerate a lot of cruelty.
So how do I, at my local grocery store, which the grocery store that I go to, so you can be real specific about this. Although I don't really buy chicken anymore either, though. But say I do. Say I go and buy chicken each week. How do I find the ones that aren't that processed that way?
I can't promise you I would have accurate information from a grocery store. So I would say you're buying from a local farm. You're going to the farmer's market on Saturday, where they're normally birthed and they die on the same farm, and they're probably not kept in that kind of captivity.
Yeah.
Or there's farms all over the country that will ship to you, and it's more expensive. But this is the trade-off we're making: is what's the give and take with the American consumer? What they're willing to pay to say, I know this animal wasn't tortured.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't have the money right now.
That's exactly what I was thinking with that, because I barely have. I mean, I don't even know if I have the money to go to a farmer's market and buy.
Oh, it's really
chicken
expensive.
Each week. Yeah, I doubt.
No, really.
I doubt I do. I think I've been switching to eating protein pasta and beans.
Yeah.
Because
so good for you.
Yeah, because it gets the nutrition and I don't. It's also just quicker for me.
You know what else is loaded with protein and most people don't realize it is the soybeans that you get at Japanese restaurants, the edamame, that you pop like popcorn, loaded with protein and fiber. So good for you. But we think of them as this random snack that we have when we go out for sushi. But really,
so good.
You should have them in your freezer at all times.
Yeah.
So I don't want beaver gland though.
No, wait. You don't want beaver gland? You're not whatever.
Because
it's not bad for you, right? It's not toxic.
No, I would
Is it bad for the beavers?
I would think it's very bad for the beavers.
Oh, then never mind.
I don't think they're surviving that process.
But I don't know. No, this is like when I was younger, and I thought about fur and leather, and I was like, well, they're just using dead animals, and it was like, no, they're not, baby.
Yeah. No. Well, this is what I talk in my class when I do my first lecture on animal ag. The first thing I put up is a picture of animals in Halloween costumes. And then we have a cute discussion. I'm like, which one of you guys bought a Halloween costume for your pet? And a bunch of hands go up. And then we talk about it. And we talk about how there's now gourmet dog food. And there's even a refrigerated section in Target and PetSmart where you can buy very high quality organic.
Mm-hmm. My friend makes her dog food.
Yes, she does. And yet, so we are just a hypocritical society because we're like, I'm going to buy this animal a pet costume and high quality organic refrigerated food. And this animal, I don't want to know what's done to it. It's tortured, killed, ends up wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
I don't care. And we can't, there's even laws around it.
Right.
So there's a federal law that you're not allowed to hurt a pet. You can be arrested, all 50 states.
Yeah.
If you came over here and you hit my dog, I could call the police. They probably wouldn't do anything.
That makes me very sad.
But,
really?
Yes, but if I got caught, keeping the dog in a pen or harming it, I could.
There was a reality show about it.
I could be fined or I could go to jail. Meanwhile, I can go to the grocery store anytime I want and buy a dead animal that was treated so much
Yeah.
worse. So picking that apart it's just something we need to do as a society if we're going to make different choices.
Agreed.
All right. We're
Cool.
having vegetables for dinner tonight, right? Yes.
I'm having a shake.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.